Rogan Report podcast. Check it out.
All things Joe Rogan by day. Rogan Report podcast by night. All day. All night. A half hour to an hour-ish episodes once a week.
The Rogan Report podcast.
All right, Shane, welcome to episode 24, season 2.
We're changing things up this time.
That's what we want to say. We're going to try something new. In season 2 here, what the goal is Shane and I will each pick a topic from the previous week or potentially an episode. You know, obviously, we're going to focus kind of more on one episode than the others if we're picking a topic, although sometimes we might span and talk about all the different episodes. It depends on what Rogan does.
Oftentimes, the whole week does center around a whole topic.
Yeah, they bleed together for sure.
Yeah.
He's always mentioning, oh, yesterday I was talking about yada, yada, yada. And we're like, you were talking about that, Rogan. We listened to yesterday's episode.
Yeah, if you're a fanboy at all, you fucking know.
Yeah, you know. I'm drinking fanboy drink Zevia. I've got a
Oh, yeah, the
Zevia
Musk
here.
talked about Zevia.
Ginger root beer.
Yeah.
Guilt-free ginger root beer.
Ginger
You've
root
got-
beer, how's that?
It's good.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think the ginger root beer the best out of everything Zevia. The
Yeah.
cola does not taste like Coke. I don't know how they come up with the cola as like why even call it cola?
The fuck is that
It
flavor?
doesn't taste at all like any cola I've
It's not
ever
a real
had.
flavor, is it?
I don't know. I want to I think coca leaves, you know.
Yeah.
That you want to have some some like molasses in there, some
That's like for me, like I really like a Diet Coke, but like what is that taste? What the fuck am I tasting when I'm drinking a Diet Coke?
I don't know.
It's just straight up
It's
poison,
cola.
and my brain's fooled into thinking it tastes good.
I do like it as well. But Zevia, yeah, when you read the ingredients list, it's like it's got water and Zevia and natural flavors, and that's it. Typically, it's pretty healthy for you,
Sounds pretty honest.
as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
So, should I start or do you want to start?
Either way.
Okay. Well, let's start. I'll start it off here, and we'll
Okay.
talk about some of the things that I guess the episode that piqued my interest the most was Johan Hari, which I thought his name was going to be Johan, but it's Johan, which
Yeah.
is much more regal sounding. Johan Hari is a writer and journalist. His new book, Lost Connections, is available now, and the main kind of source of the topic there for that episode was addiction.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's something that I think I've mentioned on the podcast. I've struggled. Cigarettes. I was heavily addicted to cigarettes and
Mhm.
was almost sure that I'd smoke the rest of my life at one point and I was trying to think back to when I quit smoking. Like, I'd never felt like I was using cigarettes to kind of escape my life, although I did feel heavily addicted to it. And
Yeah.
then when I quit, I was trying to think back, like, okay, was it that my life had gotten better and I'd gotten better connections with people around me that kind of helped me to get rid of that addiction and
So like where you no longer needed.
yeah, where I no
the
longer the
cigarettes.
physical hooks I could kind of get over, and maybe it was maturing partially. Like my life was definitely sort of getting better and better every year from when I was about 20 or so.
Mhm.
So I was trying to think about that.
But did you like enjoy the smoking? Like
Oh yeah,
I smoked for a long time too, and I enjoyed it.
yeah, for sure. It's nice, but by the end, the last I would say 5 years, it was I had every time I'd have a cigarette, I would just feel like an idiot. I'd be like, "You're
Oh,
so
yeah.
stupid. You know this is terrible for you. There's no benefits from this. Why are you doing this?" But I would, it would put away the stress of needing a cigarette.
Right.
It would
After
ease,
a while, that's all it was.
Yeah, it would ease the stress of not having had a cigarette for an hour.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously you stink from it. It was costing me, I don't know, $300 a month or something like a pretty substantial amount of money. And it was one of the things too is how it was controlling my life in that, like, say I had to plan my life around when I was going to be able to buy a pack of cigarettes. Like if I didn't have cigarettes at night, I would have to go out and buy a pack before I could go to bed because I'd needed to have a smoke before going to sleep or else I wouldn't sleep well.
Well, and
then-
it'd be a consideration too, like where you go. Can I smoke there?
yeah.
Like because for a long time, it was sort of half and half, right? You could smoke in some places in Edmonton and some not.
Yeah.
Like-
Or it's like if you're going to something where you're not going to be able to smoke for 4 hours, like on a flight or something like that,
Yeah.
you're stressed about that.
Got to have 6 cigarettes before I get on that plane.
Yeah, totally. So it was sort of, I mean, it was definitely negatively impacting my life in a pretty serious way. And then,
Well, and from a physical step, absolutely. Like,
yeah,
destroying your
of
body,
course, your
basically.
health.
Right?
Although I've always been quite active, so all
Mhm.
the unhealthy stuff that I do is sort of tempered by like the active lifestyle that I
It
have.
does work itself through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, shockingly healthy for as fat and ugly as I am. That's what I like to say.
Yeah.
And especially while I was smoking cigarettes, I was, really into mountain biking and freestyle skiing, and so I was like really, really highly active.
Smoking cigarettes kept me really skinny for a long time.
Yeah.
Which I
Curbs
actually
the
wouldn't,
appetite.
I wouldn't mind a little bit of that.
Yeah, curbs
back,
the
but-
appetite a bit. That's one of the ways that they started with cigarettes was in the war. They would give them out to soldiers as appetite suppressants. So a lot of people were smoking in the war for that reason.
Yeah.
Anyways, in this episode, they talk mainly about substance abuse and addiction, and that's what I researched the most. But he also mentions this funny anecdote about British culture early on that I thought I would bring up. So he talks about there was a suicide bomber that had put together a bomb and he was in like a subway, transit type station, and they set the bomb off, and it didn't fully explode, but it just made like a really loud bang. And then there was like 4 of them, and they took off running, and they were caught them, and it was actually this fireman, like a retired fireman or something, that caught one of the guys. And he caught him pretty close, and when he caught him, he's like, "You rude man," and like that he was just suicide bombing was just a terrible manners and a terrible example of what a
Bad
human
form.
should be. Yeah, terrible. Oh, what a hassle that he had to go get him. You rude man.
hilarious.
And then he had this other example also where there was a riot there, and in the riot they British people had there was this really, really hard pane of glass. They could only get a small hole, so all the rioters formed like a single file line to get in and riot one at a time and loot this building. It'd be like, "Oh, were you here first? Oh, please, you after you." Yeah, it was like someone was yelling at him like, "You don't even know how to riot correctly."
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was a funny little anecdote
Yeah.
about British culture. I have British friends, and it doesn't really matter what they're saying. They do seem more proper and more like,
Absolutely.
I feel like they sit up straighter than us, and
Yeah.
I guess we're a little closer to Britain than the States is.
We must
with our
sound like
culture.
painfully like slow and dull, huh?
I think. Do you think that Canadians
Like plodding cows and just
I wonder if the or if the Americans think that us as Canadians sound more like British people than we do like Americans.
they don't paint us that way.
No, they sure don't.
I don't think that's what they think. They're
There is
picturing
also-
lumberjacks and
Yeah.
polar bears and fucking
There's a giant range of, just like in the States, there's a giant range. The Alberta, there's the Alberta trades accent.
yeah.
And there's, the Alberta, kind of intellectual. And then there's obviously there's French Canadian, there's Newfoundland, there's Toronto has sort of a specific kind of that when they make fun of a boot, I feel like that's largely Ontario sort of.
Yeah, I've literally never said it like that.
No, about.
I would hate myself if I did talk that way.
Abs and out, and you put them together. About.
That's not how it's spelled.
Yeah.
Why'd you say it that way?
But I have heard people say
Yeah.
And you know what I hear more than a boot, which I almost never hear? I hear a boat.
Yeah.
Oh, it's about time to get over there.
Oh
eh?
yeah.
Fucking right about time.
Oh God.
So I do hear a boat, and I recognize it, and I'm like, haha, you just said it Canadian.
I wonder if you went to L.A. and spent I don't know 2 months there, if you'd start noticing yourself sounding weird.
Yeah, well, L.A. has its own accent. It's kind of like surfer, hey man, take it easy, man.
I feel like we'd fit in good, Actually, it's not that far off.
No.
Think about snowboarder type. Think about your Whistler Canadian.
Oh, sure, yeah.
That's definitely a type too.
Yeah.
But that's what they think of us as. A lot of them, I think.
Snowboarding Ross
Yeah,
Bugattis?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I don't think they think about us that
I
much.
mean,
I think they just think that we all sound the same. I would bet you that 99% of Americans wouldn't really recognize the different dialects. They might if they heard them all in a row, but if they were just to think in their heads about oh, what are the different sounds of Canadian accents, they would be like, oh, they all sound the same.
Which
they all say a
I
boot.
mean, they really don't.
Yeah.
You go east and it's completely different.
And same thing in the States, Boston and kind of East Coast
It really is.
versus the South, like real like Southern drawls, and then the crazy surfer culture of California.
Yeah.
And then there's like Minnesota.
Those are the funny ones.
Yeah. And Minnesota is probably the closest to like Canadian, like, oh, so real good there, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love, have you watched the Fargo series?
I have.
The series or just the movie?
The first season.
The first season? Okay.
I don't think I've ever seen the movie.
You never saw the movie?
Maybe not.
Coen Brothers classic.
I should watch it.
Academy Award winner, Frances McDormand. She's great in it. And great movie. I haven't watched it after watching the series, though, and I feel like I'm nervous to go back and watch it, because sometimes when they make a series that's like, that series is, I think, one of the top 3, 4, 5 best series of all time.
Yeah.
And so I'm nervous that, like, watching the series, if I went back and watched the movie, it might seem hokey and, like, it's pretty old now. It was, I think, the 90s when that came out.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm nervous to watch it, but I do want to see it again and compare it.
I'd watch it.
I loved the series. The series, like the first season, takes place in, I don't know, maybe the 90s, I think Fargo, Minnesota. And then the second season, they like kick it back to the 70s, and it's like a period piece.
Right.
And then the third season takes place shortly after the first season.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping for the fourth season that they go to like the future, like 2050 in Minnesota.
It'd be cool to see them do something like that.
Yeah. So Minnesota in 2050, what the fuck is it going to be like then?
Have you seen this
Hunger
True
Games?
Detective series?
I watched, the McConaughey. I watched the first 2 seasons.
The first one was great.
Yeah.
The second one I thought was really good too.
It was
but everyone
good.
else
It
hated
wasn't,
on it. But
I liked it. It was different. One of the things is they didn't try to remake it the same, and that's one of the things I love about Fargo is they didn't try to just make it the same thing.
Mhm.
They changed it quite a bit. And the first one was a little more impactful. I thought, like when those episodes and those scenes stood out, like, and they stood in your mind more than the second season, was just kind of like a cop thriller mystery.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean McConaughey too,
more
right?
shit.
McConaughey
Yeah,
and Harrelson, the fucking.
Speaking
fucking
of
best.
McConaughey, how about this new commercial that he's in for a new Lincoln, where he like sees the pool? He's at a house party. And He sees a pool table with like balls on it. And he's like, "Huh, how about that?" And then he like walks over and he makes this like down trick shot where he puts spin on the ball and curves it around, and it shows people off to the side watching, like, "Oh my god, I've never seen that before. Oh my god." And so it's so stupid. It's maybe the worst commercial I've ever seen. And he's like, "Hey, that's very nice." That was
Is he
another
the
good
sexiest Southerner there is?
Yeah, probably take our shirts off.
God damn, man. If that was the representation
hold it.
of the South.
They stay the same age. Is that good? I don't know. In my head, that's what McConaughey sounds
You're hearing him. Yeah.
I just have to, I think back to him saying lines, like famous lines in movies, and then I try to sound like that.
Yeah. But this new season's fucking good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm excited. I've heard good things.
It's got someone in it
will
I
get
didn't
to it.
expect to be good either. Is Steven Dorff, who even
okay.
has thought of Steven Dorff since Blade.
Blade. Yeah, he was the bad guy.
But he's pretty good, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's get back to the meat and guts of
Let's
this
do it.
episode here. So I looked up some stats for Canada and addiction. Apparently, 11 Canadians die every day from apparent like opioid related incidents.
Oh wow.
I wouldn't have guessed it was nearly that high.
Probably mostly based on pills, I would say, with when talking opioids, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That fentanyl, and I mean, I'm sure there's some heroin as well.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But even doctor prescribed shit.
yeah, fentanyl is doctor
Is it?
prescribed.
I guess,
Yeah.
that is, yeah.
Yeah, my dad was on fentanyl for pain.
Oh, okay.
And there's that, of course, OxyContin is a massive one too. That's an opioid.
What's dangerous about it? Like, what's making people die all over the
super
place? from
easy
it?
to overdose because it's so
Oh,
potent. It's like a pin drop. Just the head of a pin is enough to like have you like super pain medicated for like an hour or something. Like, I don't know. So if you just take like an extra double, like a couple of pills or something like that, you can overdose and die.
That's fucking brutal.
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy. And then I think it was getting like laced and mixed into other things. Although that always does seem like a rumor. Whenever like it always used to be a rumor like, oh, this pot is laced with something, and you'd be like, is it? Because I feel like they would have charged extra if it was.
It's funny, yeah.
It's laced with cocaine.
Like
this pot is laced with cocaine. And like, no, it isn't.
pot dealers aren't out there with like PCP trying
yeah,
to fuck kids up.
extra PCP to
What-
get.
no.
They give you.
Shit's expensive.
You could buy it laced, but even then, I think a lot of times they'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's laced for sure," and it would just be normal pot.
Yeah. Although there was a couple times there I felt definitely different.
Yeah.
with that, but the placebo effect probably
Could
right.
be that for sure.
And also, I was young.
Yeah.
Kids shouldn't smoke weed.
Yeah, that's what they say. But and they were talking about that, definitely on that pot debate and a few other times, maybe even in this episode,
Mhm.
how kids shouldn't. But I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, like I smoked a ton of weed when I was in high school and I was a kid.
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends that are successful that smoked weed as kids, tons of people in the world smoked weed as kids, and it didn't seem to really hurt them that much.
I don't think it's a guarantee for unsuccess, but it's hard to say because you can't
You can't
branch
know.
off and look at what would have happened if you
Yeah.
hadn't smoked weed as a
Until
child.
we can master the multiverse.
Yeah.
So
That's
one
right.
day, one
Run
day
it
we'll
back
be able
with
to
the
see.
secret or something.
I want to know what Ruben turned out like, who didn't ever smoke weed.
I'd definitely like to see
He's
my
probably
best
a
mate.
fucking knob.
100%. Yeah, he'd be a dickhead
Yeah,
for sure.
He doesn't know. He's probably talks like this. He's probably like, look up at the stars, guys. All the stars are real cool.
Yeah, something like that.
He's
That
super
would
nerdy.
suck. Yeah, man.
So I thought 11 Canadians die every day from apparent opioid-related incidents. And when I looked up like addiction, I went to the Government of Canada website,
Mhm.
and there's a short blurb, and they mention this stat, and then the whole rest of the page is like, there's like another 10 pages, I would say, worth of it's just all about stigma.
Mhm.
And about like stigma around addiction, stigma around drug abuse, what stigma is, how to recognize it, how to deal with it. So I thought maybe I would talk about some of the things that we can do to help avoid stigma around drug use. Because another stat that was mentioned by Johan was that 90% of drug use is just recreational use that doesn't turn into abuse.
Right.
90%. There's only 10% where it seems to become a problem for people.
Mhm.
And maybe first I should talk about what his sort of main position is. So he says that most people, when you talk to them, like, what makes a heroin addict a heroin addict? And they say, well, it's in the name. They had heroin, so
Yeah.
they became a heroin addict. And he says that that's not really the case. People become addicts almost never because of the actual chemical hooks in drugs.
Right.
It's mostly because of their mostly because of their circumstances in life that make them addicts. And
Yeah.
that's sort of proven with this whole rat experiment that we've talked about, or Rogan has talked about probably a dozen other times. They've talked about that rat experiment and how it was biased because they put the rats in a cage where they have no stimulus, and then they're not having any fulfillment of what a rat would normally get fulfilled by. And so, of course, it goes back to the heroin water again and again and again. Until
Feeling something over
yeah,
here.
it's dead in a week.
Yeah.
But then when they made Rat Park, which they called it, and they gave the rats lots of stimulus and other options, the rats went to the heroin water a couple times, and then they didn't go back. They went to just regular water, and they went off and enjoyed their lives in Rat Park where they had stimulus. And he feels like it's kind of the same for people because they give people heroin or in hospitals and opioids and whatnot for pain, and for most people in the world, it doesn't become a crazy heroin addiction, right? It does. Some people it does get away from, right?
Mhm.
People have bad backs; they start taking painkillers, and then they get a real problem with it.
Yeah.
But for most people, the giant bulk of people taking pain medications, they take the pain medication while they are, having their surgery, and then they don't take it anymore.
Yeah.
And they go back to their lives, and they live their lives, accordingly.
Yeah.
And so he thinks that the opposite of being an addict and being an addiction is connection, and that the more you're connected to people, the better off you're going to be.
Right.
And so one of the ways we can help people who are addicted is to kind of reduce the stigma around drug addiction and drug abuse. And on the website here, they talked about some ways that we can help to reduce stigma. So as Canadians, we need to talk openly and respectfully and compassionately about drug abuse and addiction. And we can also, one, speak to the person first before we talk about their substance abuse.
Right.
Avoid using slang and derogatory language such as addict or junkie.
Yeah.
Although addict seems like more of a
Kind
clinical
of seems
term.
like the word,
Yeah, it's not really derogatory necessarily.
Yeah.
But junkie for sure.
but not
has-
to refer
has
to
a
them
certain
as that
connotation.
rather than themselves.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Use language that expresses care and concern rather than judgment.
Hmm.
Use language that acknowledges and promotes the fact that recovery from substance use disorders is possible.
Yeah.
Speak up when we hear or witness someone being treated or spoken to about in a disrespectful manner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some advice if you're dealing with like family members who are going through addiction. It can certainly be frustrating, especially, there's kind of the cliche of the heroin junkie who's stolen everything from
Right.
their families, right?
Yeah.
Stolen, pawned the TV, pawned everything that they, that it wasn't even theirs. And so that can certainly be frustrating, but
Oh yeah.
you want to try to give them the best chance to get through that. And I think, getting them help, trying to make their lives better. That's, another thing that came up was that in Switzerland, there was this giant problem with heroin addiction in, I guess it was the 90s.
Yeah.
And I looked at it, I was like, I almost didn't believe it when he was telling this story because it just seemed far-fetched. I was like, how come I didn't hear about a giant heroin like problem in Switzerland? I feel like that's something I would have heard of in my life.
Yeah.
But it's true. They did have a giant problem, and it was a lot of like street use. And then the Swiss people are very into like order, and that's no coincidence that they invented clocks,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Although I don't know if they invented clocks, but they're certainly famous for making Swiss
Making clocks.
timepieces.
The Swiss
Yeah.
Army knife.
Yeah, Swiss watches.
Yep.
So they did not love this giant heroin problem that was spilling out into the streets, and it was causing crime to go up, and it was causing all kinds of chaos. And so the president or prime minister, whatever they have there, was like, what we're going to do is we're going to have a heroin center and make it completely legal and help people. And the reaction immediately was, what? We do that, it'll be chaos.
Yeah.
And they're like, she's
Everybody's
like, no,
gonna be junkie.
it already is chaos.
Yeah.
Like, people are doing it randomly when we don't know. There's amazing crime. They're doing it in the dark. They're doing it with dirty needles, AIDS. All these things are going up. All these terrible problems with our culture.
Yeah.
If we take it, and so they made it completely legal, and they opened a center where people could go there and they could get as much heroin as they wanted, or as large a dose as they wanted, that wouldn't kill them. They would give them whatever you want, the heaviest dose that won't kill you. Here you go. And they give it to them for free, and they give them a clean syringe, and you're not allowed to leave with it, obviously, because they don't want people to take it and sell it, but also because they want to monitor the people, make sure they're
Right.
safe and still living.
Yeah.
So you do your heroin there, and then you go off. And the other thing they did was they tried to help them and get them work. And like, they would, if you were a mechanic, they would like go to a mechanic place and say, hey, we'll help pay half of this guy's salary for a year, and you can hire this guy, and got them work, got them counseling, and tried to help solve what was wrong in their lives. And most of the people, not all, but like a staggering majority of the people, when their lives got better, they didn't want to anesthetize themselves from the world. They
Yeah.
wanted to be more present.
Right.
They were like the rats in the boxes where they had nothing going on, so they wanted to numb themselves to the pain and how shitty their lives were. But
Mhm.
once their lives started getting better, they didn't want to be numb to that anymore. They wanted to be present. And so he said that like in his travels back to like Zurich, that things were so much better there. Everything had fallen by staggering amounts. I forget the exact percentages that he was saying, but all things had fallen. And the prime minister, she lived like right across from this heroin center.
Yeah.
And Joe's like, yeah, she should probably move. That's not a good spot.
That's a terrible spot.
But he's like, no, it's not really a bad area.
Yeah.
So that's a way, could that work in like America, where they definitely have a lot more people, a totally different culture, different like, geographic problems. I don't know. Maybe it can. Maybe
it couldn't automatically, but it's definitely the kind of change America needs.
They need something. What they're doing, the war on drugs, is not working. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
So they need to do something different than what they're doing, sure.
I thought we had something very similar in Vancouver too, don't we? I'm pretty sure we do have some heroin centers.
There's definitely.
I
I
don't
don't know
think
if they're giving
they're
away
not
heroin,
giving it, but they're
but
giving
they're
a
giving
safe
needles
place.
for sure, and
Yeah.
needles in safe places, and like care
Yeah.
nurses to help administer if you want to. But yeah, they're not. I don't think they're giving away free heroin.
Get your age.
Yeah.
No, but it's a good idea, and it's going to be a clean product that's not stamped with all kinds of really bad stuff that you're also getting addicted to or
Totally.
getting killed by.
Yeah, that was one of the other big ones. Street drugs, is very clean and pure, and not full of AIDS.
Yeah.
So I thought it's a fascinating episode. That was Johan, Harry, and I don't know if I even wrote what episode 1250.
Awesome. Yeah.
1250, Johan, Harry.
Nice breakdown.
Yeah, so that's some interesting little tidbits there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, for me, I liked the first episode. I might have actually chosen Johan Hari too, but you said it first. So.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
But I also like Andy Stump a lot too.
Oh, he's great.
And I keep saying Stump, like that's how you say
Stump.
it. But I think it's just Stump.
Okay.
That's a silent.
Well, we
F.
can say Stump.
It's
We
there. I mean, I want to say it because it's
Yeah,
there.
when you're reading it, for sure you want to say it.
It's
Yeah.
right there.
Andy Stump.
So
I think, the silent F.
he's a recurring guest on Joe Rogan.
Sure.
But he's a retired Navy SEAL. He's a record holder for wingsuit flying,
Yeah, squirrel suits,
which is
AKA.
fucking crazy.
I've watched those videos on YouTube. Does
Yeah.
not seem like something I want to do.
Have you seen the one? It's a pretty recent one. They like jump off and fly into a fucking flying airplane with like its hangar. It's got like side cargo doors
Oh,
open.
no.
He literally like flies himself, and it shows
You
them
would
like failing
smash.
6 times because like they'd hit it and start tumbling and have to pull their chute, right?
Okay.
But fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, don't.
What a monstrous
Don't do
idea.
that.
He also hosts a podcast called Cleared Hot.
Right.
And does a blog I discovered when I went looking around. He does a blog called Confessions of an Idiot.
Oh, okay.
And I think they might have mentioned that too. But
He's
I'm not
calling
sure.
himself the idiot?
I think.
He's an idiot for doing,
Yeah.
because of all the extreme stuff that he's done?
Yeah.
He certainly doesn't sound like an idiot when you listen to him on the podcast. He seems like a,
Real smart guy.
reasonably well-read and
I feel like your
Coherent.
typical grunt doesn't end up being a Navy SEAL. It's pretty intensive.
Yeah,
like it's
totally.
not just physical.
yeah, you gotta
You got to
pretty
be a
together.
problem solver.
Yeah.
Think on your feet kind of thing. One thing that I thought was funny was how they talk about war movies and how it all is just such bullshit.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
even said, "What about Saving Private Ryan?" Because for me, that's always been the pinnacle of the
Yeah.
most realistic war
Well, he
movie.
said that one got it not in
the
terms
first
of like
10
the
minutes
scene,
of it, he said,
but like it got sort of some of the emotion
Yeah.
it captured,
right.
but not necessarily the like actual violence.
Well, the fact that they would go into enemy lines to find one soldier to take him off the fucking enemy lines, that would never happen.
Would it?
I don't think so.
I have no idea.
I don't think that's how America does shit.
I thought it was based on a true story.
It's such a fucking great movie, though.
It is a great movie.
But yeah, so grenades don't fucking explode like
Yeah,
the way
I
we
knew
think.
that.
There's no fireball.
I have seen realistic like grenade explosions. I feel like most of the grenade explosions, when I think of a grenade explosion on film, I think of them throwing the grenade
Yeah.
and then you see the dust from
The
where
dust
it lands
cloud,
kicks
yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And I don't remember fireballs. And
no, but
grenades.
like old school
maybe
ones,
like Rambo.
Rambo,
Yeah.
Die Hard, and shit.
Is Die Hard a big fireball?
I'm pretty sure that thing was
really
all
remember.
fireballs.
When he said that, I started thinking about scenes with grenades.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't remember seeing.
Most modern war movies try to get it right, I feel like.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's pretty hard on them. So maybe they don't. But
Yeah, I might not notice either. If,
like you said, though, with
Not
the
the way he
endless
would.
ammo, that always got me, even as a
Yeah.
kid, man. I used to be like, how many bullets does that handgun hold?
yeah, no, me too.
506?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
yeah. Die Hard was pretty bad for that. Remember, he had like one handgun. He's killing like 14 bad guys, and he's shooting them all 19
One
times.
shotting them, too, and they're all shooting automatic weapons and missing.
Yeah,
Just every bullet. Yeah, old school action movies are the best.
Yeah.
So what he likes about flying in these wingsuits is that moment where you have nothing else to decide except for the seconds in front of
present.
you. Like you're gonna die if you don't make
Yeah.
this next right choice.
You're snapped into the present, and your
Yeah.
mind is completely clear of everything else.
I've actually found that myself, not many times in my life, but there's been a few times. Like me and Stacy went off the road once, and I was driving way too fast on the QE2 heading to Calgary, and it was
Oh,
middle
yeah.
of winter.
Yep.
And someone jumped in front of me doing like 90, so I had to bail. But when I did, there's this ice bump over the lanes as
Yeah.
it builds up. I'm sure you're familiar.
Sure.
It sent me spinning and careening into the ditch, but time, I swear to God, time like almost stopped.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I had time to like put my hand on Stacy, tell her, calm down. I think we're going to flip though. So like brace yourself.
Yeah.
We didn't flip, but just that, the way time almost like crystallizes or something. It's such a weird feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've felt it too.
Oh,
'cause
yeah.
You've done a lot of kind of dangerous shit.
Yeah, extreme sports for sure.
Yeah.
When you go off of a jump, you know, it completely clears your mind for that time.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes it doesn't, and that's not good. But for lots of times, even not extreme, like with golfing, for example, I talk about this.
Yeah.
It's kind of meditative.
You're
and,
dialing it in.
Yeah,
and-
it brings you into like sort of a flow state, and you're present. And when I'm swinging the golf club, very often, I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm just kind of like letting it happen. And you know, I have sort of like a mantra, almost the same as what like an archer would have,
Yeah.
where they kind of talk the steps and repeat the steps in their head. And so, you know, we call them swing thoughts in golf. And so my swing thoughts often are like, be smooth, fluid, and hands close. Like bring your hands through the same space.
Yeah.
So be smooth, fluid, hands through the same space. And I kind of like have that mantra going, and I'm not really thinking about it, but it's going through my head.
Yeah.
And yeah. And
That's like some Eckhart Tolle stuff.
yeah, kind of.
Yeah, like that's what they talk about basically. You're doing what they talk about. Literally.
Yeah, and it is like sort of a present feeling that is not the same as like, you know, then what you hit the shot and you watch and you hopefully see it land on the green, and then you have time to like walk to you, and at that time you can like think about things and bullshit with your friends.
Yeah.
But then when you get back into your like address and your routine, you go back into your swing thoughts and you're, you know, present again, and it's a lot of fun. I love golf.
Me too. I've never gotten good, but I do like it. So a little bit about Andy Stump. He joined the SEAL Team 6 in 2002. And if everyone doesn't remember, SEAL Team 6 is the team that took down, and I've got air quotes here, you can't see them because this is a podcast,
Yeah.
but they took down Osama bin Laden
Yeah.
and dumped that shit in the ocean
Yeah.
before anyone could see anything or test anything or do anything.
Was he on the team at the time?
I don't think so. I investigated that. I couldn't see actually anything about any of his missions. Unfortunately,
Right.
it must be dangerous for
They
other
locked that
troops
shit
and
down.
whatever. Yeah, but because I really wanted to talk about some of his missions, but
Yeah.
there's nothing to talk about, so
Okay.
it's classified. But yeah,
Fair enough.
so that whole thing. Do you remember when that all went down?
Yeah.
2011. Like that was weird, man.
Totally. Yeah. I didn't think that it was right that they just threw the body away.
Well, it's
Like,
not
yeah, we
something
got
they
him
ever
and they-
did before.
But we threw him in the ocean.
Like,
He's
remember
gone.
when they killed Saddam Hussein's sons, like in 2003, when the second Gulf War was happening
Mhm.
there? They like had pictures all over the newspaper, nonstop, pictures.
And they were saying that they didn't want to martyr Osama bin Laden, and that's why they.
But didn't they
you know,
anyway by doing this?
I don't know. I didn't really get that.
For a lot of the
argument.
people that must have done it, like,
Yeah,
is he even dead? Is he even ever real?
that's the part. That's for me the biggest thing is like, okay, well, how convenient.
That's so weird.
You got him, and then you just threw him away into the ocean.
Dude, we
Of
could
the
do a
plane?
whole podcast just on bin Laden, and
Yeah.
that goes into
I'm
9/11
sure there's-
and all that.
yeah, of
like,
course.
it's fucking.
Yeah,
That's for
conspiracy theory
for-
heaven.
That's for it's a conspiracy.
Andrew,
I think
we'll
they've covered
leave
it,
that one
actually.
to you.
But yeah, so he did many, many, many critical missions for America that unfortunately there's nothing to talk about on
Yep.
it. But eventually he was shot by an insurgent with an AK-47, which put him out of duty for
Right.
quite a while, a few years. Eventually he did heal himself back up, returned in 2006, and was a petty officer, kind of overseeing the training of other troops.
Still with the SEALs?
He's
No,
like just joined the army,
Oh,
and
okay.
then that was 2006, and then 2008, after working as an officer for a few years, he joined SEAL Team 3.
Oh, okay.
So he was back in, and I think he worked stayed operational until about 2013. So for a total of 17 years, he
and
put
then
in the
got
army,
medically retired.
medically
You're
retired.
just saying.
And if all that excitement wasn't enough, he went ahead and put on a squirrel suit after
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Which is fucking crazy. Absolutely crazy. I'm afraid of heights. So, like,
Yeah.
for me, that's like the craziest thing you could think of.
It is a weird, like, I'm a little bit afraid of heights. I think it's natural.
Yeah.
Most people have something. But I get, like, if I'm go out on something super high, I'll get a little bit of vertigo. And, like, my balls feel weird and tingly. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Kind of like an elevator feeling almost.
For me, it's just straight up more than it is heights, though, because, like, I can go to Banff and go up the gondola and be on the top of the mountain there.
Yeah.
And I'm not that fucked up. Like, the gondola creeps me out a bit, but
when you're in the gondola looking down.
it creeps me out.
Yeah.
Especially when it goes over the shit and it gives you a little leap in your stomach there.
Yeah, totally.
But it's not too bad. You know that the odds of that falling are pretty fucking slim.
Okay,
But
so
the idea of climbing up myself straight up something, though, where I'm the one doing it, I'm in control of
up a
it,
cliff?
and I can freeze, and I will freeze and have frozen in heights
Fair enough.
before, so I know that feeling well.
There you go.
Like up on, like, for example, as a kid with the twirly slides, I used to have, remember great big metal twirly slides that used to go 4 and 5 twirls up sometimes?
Sure, yeah, and like the structure in the park.
Yeah, they change parks a lot now.
Yeah.
Parks
they're
are for
very
pussies
safe.
now.
Yeah, very low to
Kids
the ground.
were getting their shit busted up at parks when I was little.
Yeah. I remember just like the game would be like, see what the highest thing you could jump off of.
Right.
It's like,
To the sand.
Johnny broke his leg.
And sand's not that yielding, really.
No, I mean, it's
Kinda
fine because when you're that young,
Yeah.
probably like, that's
You're
where
not
a
that
couple of my
heavy.
concussions came from.
No, as an adult, if I climbed up one of those fucking slides and jumped off,
Oh yeah, you break an ankle.
I'd
at
break my
least.
tailbone and my fucking
Yeah.
ankle, chip my nail and everything.
Gotta roll
Yeah.
out of it.
So he actually holds the title for the longest and highest jump for a wingsuit. He jumped from 36,500 feet,
Yeah,
and he soared 18 miles in that wingsuit.
that's
Which
a long
is
flight.
Just mind-blowing, right?
Yeah, it is. I just remember seeing the videos on YouTube. I know I've seen some from him. I don't know if I watched the whole 18-mile one or if that's available, but
Yeah.
you see like they have GoPro mounts on their heads, so you see from their perspective
Yeah.
and like going through canyons and like going right by trees,
Literally,
in
like
between
shaving
trees.
corners
Yeah,
sometimes.
and it's like,
oh
oh,
my
why
God.
would you go that close?
You wouldn't do it in a plane, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
Like,
Fuck.
Squirrel suit is one thing, but squirrel suit where it's like you're likely to hit an obstacle.
Yeah.
That's like, why would you?
It's over.
Why would you put that obstacle there? Like squirrel suit into a nice open field where you're not
Or,
going to
like,
hit any obstacles.
Even if you didn't hit something, connect and die on, even if you hit something a bit, it would send you off spinning and like, oh my God, man.
Yeah.
The danger is so intense.
Well, people die. It's like one of the highest mortality
that's
rates.
that's
for
another
all,
point.
for all sports.
When they were pioneering these things, and I actually went and looked at some pictures of some of these first wingsuits,
Yeah,
it's basically like you would think, like fucking,
they sewed.
what do you call that?
together.
Steampunkish. They got like canvas wings, basically,
Yeah,
that have like wooden ribs,
right.
and that's it. It's
Yeah,
just-
and he was talking about on that episode the two, like the guys that pioneered it and invented it are dead. Yeah.
Actually, everybody that pioneered wingsuiting,
Yeah,
they're all died in wingsuits.
all the inventors. But nowadays they're a lot higher tech.
Oh yeah, for sure. They, like he was saying, they have ram air pockets, and once you start flying, it's not like your body has to do all the work. The suit itself holds itself open. That
I have a foil kite that like inflates, and I
Yeah.
assume that it, when I see them fly, I assume it's kind of something similar to that.
same dynamics, yeah.
But yeah,
You go kiting quite a bit.
not very much.
No.
The one I have is you need like 30-40 kilometer an hour winds to actually pull
Oh,
you.
it's a legit
It's
kite.
it's pretty small though.
Oh yeah,
Like the larger, mine's a 1.5 meter,
Mhm.
and like so you need a very 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 strong wind to pull you because it doesn't have as much force.
right.
So whereas like there's some that are like 10 meters wide, and those ones they're a little harder to get up. Once you get them up, you can fly them in like 5 kilometer, 10 kilometer winds.
So just kind of float there.
Yeah, because they're so big that they have so much force behind them. But if you take those into like a 60 kilometer an hour wind,
Mm-hmm.
then it's just too much. So really, you want to have a variety of sizes: a 3 meter, a 5 meter, 7 meter, 10 meter.
If you want to kite, no matter what happens.
Yeah, and then you can match your kite to whatever the wind and the whatever terrain you're going to.
I've always wanted to take it seriously, but I've only ever had like the shitty little ones you give your kids for Easter and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
we go out there, it's like 3 feet across or something,
Yeah,
not
no.
even 2 feet.
This is separate from that.
Yeah.
for
But
sure.
that seems pretty therapeutic and like, I don't know, nice somehow just watching.
Yeah.
Especially some of these cool big like canvas ones that you used to see in weird like, I'm trying to think of the names of old stores. Kites and Other Delights, actually. It was
Oh,
one
yeah.
store that used to be in West Ed. I'm sure you remember
yeah,
it too.
I do. I sure do.
Yeah.
Lots of like hobby stuff in there.
Yeah.
Kind of a hobby shop. Yeah, there was a guy in Alberta that was kiting and he was on a lake and I don't know if he just wasn't paying attention or he lost control of the kite and he got pulled off the lake and slammed into the wall of a church and at like 90 miles an hour.
Holy
done.
fuck.
Yeah. Dead. Instantly dead.
You gotta let go of the kite. Let
Well,
it go.
you get most of the big ones, you are harnessed to it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Fuck
You
all
wear a
that.
harness because it'll pick you up. Like you'll
You're
go
going for a ride,
20,
bitch.
30 feet up in the air with
Yeah.
it and then come down nicely, ideally, hopefully. You can disengage from it and cut away from it. But yeah, you're harnessed because you can hold yourself with your arms. If you were trying to like hold your arms and be pulled,
Yeah.
you'd lose all of your like energy. You'd be able to go for 5 minutes.
It's
So-
like parasailing without water
Yeah,
or any control.
totally.
That sucks. Yeah. Yeah. Kites are interesting. Shout out to kites. Well, that's pretty much all I've got on Mr. Stump.
Okay.
He's on many times. He'll be on again.
Yeah.
Um,
Seems like a good dude.
something that caught my notice this week, this fucking Momo challenge. And the first thing have you seen about this Momo challenge?
I'm trying to think what
I'm going to
it is.
describe it for a minute, but
Okay.
first, when you hear the word Momo, I don't know about you, but I think of Joey Diaz.
Yeah.
Like, you Momo.
Fucking momos.
Yeah, that's all I keep thinking every time I see it. But what it really is, some creepy asshole is contacting people through WhatsApp, and particularly young girls and kids mostly.
How does he know who it is?
Who he's talking to? I'm not sure how the WhatsApp app works, to be honest. So,
Well, it's like a messenger. It's owned by Facebook.
but there's profiles connected to it, right?
No.
Like, isn't there?
It's like your phone number's connected. It's just a messaging service.
Okay,
So I don't know how you would.
I'm not sure how he's finding people.
Maybe there is somewhere.
he
that-
or she, but
They.
they're getting people to share their personal information and pictures
Okay.
and photos, and then they're getting them to like do shit, like dumb shit. It starts off small, like just little things to build your courage,
Yeah.
leading up
Go,
to
jump on one foot.
killing yourself.
Really?
Yeah.
And
It's called the
some
Momo Challenge, and apparently some 12-year-old girl somewhere went all the way and killed herself.
people- Really?
So it's pretty fucking creepy. But
Wow.
when you get a minute, look up the Momo Challenge, and you're gonna see a really creepy picture.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see it. What is the? Well, I'll look at it right now.
Yeah, well, it's fucked up, man.
What is the picture that from?
I think it's the profile of the person doing it. I think.
Is it one person or it's probably
Well,
a
who
bunch
knows,
of
right?
copycat
If
people?
they haven't caught him, but
Momo. Oh, mono symptoms.
yeah, there's that too.
Momo
Different kind of challenge.
challenge Reddit.
It's like
The cartoon.
Mm.
Oh,
you see it?
that thing?
Yeah, that's the one.
The weird eyes.
Sort of like Saw and shit. I don't know.
No,
Something.
you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Beetlejuice when they
Yeah.
pull their face
Fuck
off
yeah, it
the
does.
girl.
But it's creepy, right?
True story behind the horrifying trend. Yeah, that is creepy for sure.
Man, it's weird times we live in. We live in times of challenges, like the Tide Pod challenge and fucking Ice Bucket challenge.
I am curious if this was all a big hoax and
Well,
not
one
real at
kid's
all.
been dead,
or
or they say, yeah.
I don't know. I
Are
hate
you
to
in
be
Eddie
skeptical
Bravo's
about
camp
that.
here?
Well,
Be careful.
I hate to be skeptical of things like, but I'm, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. I haven't read anything. All I've heard is you tell me a story about it, and then I see that it's associated to Reddit. So yeah, I'm going to be skeptical until I see some more legit.
It's
kinda-
all over the news and shit.
I believe you.
It is. I didn't go looking for it. It came across my Facebook, I think,
Right.
which is
Why do people keep saying
half
it's
fake news apparently. So whatever, but
Right.
it's not a good thing, that's for sure.
No. All right. Well, kids, if you're listening to this, fuck that. Whoever tries to do the Momo challenge on you, tell them to fuck off.
Fuck any self-harming challenge. That's stupid.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Take care of yourselves, guys.
Get off the internet. I don't
Yeah.
think it's helping you much.
Go out there, be safe, be friendly. A friend of mine is going to be going to the North Country Fair this year, and he texted me today asking if it was kid friendly.
Yeah.
And I told him, you know what? It's surprisingly, exceptionally kid friendly. It is a
Yeah.
family event.
Yeah.
And especially exceptionally considering that how much drugs are being done there. You
Yeah.
know, it's like a big like psychedelic music festival.
Right.
So mushrooms and acid and all kinds of crazy drugs everywhere. But it's also there's this overwhelming theme of like just be good to people, you know,
Mhm.
be kind, take care of each other.
Might be the safest, most friendly place on earth for
Yeah,
the
one of
weekend.
them, totally.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I assume that it's similar to what it would be like to go to Burning Man because Burning Man is full of a lot of those same kinds of psychedelics and whatnot.
Yeah.
But,
Maybe a little less nutty.
yeah, maybe a little less hippie,
steampunk.
a little bit more, a little more steampunk, a little less hippie.
Oh, okay.
Because NCF is very hippie.
I'm definitely gonna make it to one of these this year.
Should.
I'd like to go this year. Actually,
Come this year.
Yeah.
I'm getting all my friends.
do tickets sell out way in advance?
No, you can go day of usually even.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it is early bird pricing right now till some time.
I was thinking maybe we should make predictions for the upcoming UFC because there's a big UFC coming this weekend.
Big UFC. I already told you my prediction. John Jones knockout in the first round.
First round.
Knocks out was Anthony Smith, right? Anthony
Yeah.
Lionheart Smith.
Yeah.
Am I right? I think Woodley beats Kamaru Usman.
Okay.
Not in the first round though. I think that one goes third round. I think if Woodley loses, he loses by knockout.
Woodley plays it safe for the most part.
But he does
so
play
if
it
he's
very
feeling
safe.
worried with the wrestling and whatnot, he's gonna order with the striking.
Yeah.
He's gonna do what he needs to do to win
Yeah.
the fight.
Yeah, he'll be very strategic
Yeah.
for sure. However he goes into it, I think you know he's going to be pretty smart about it.
Yeah.
But I do think he'll win.
I'm with you on those first two picks.
He
for sure.
wins either in the third round or possibly he wins by decision.
I don't think John takes it in the first though. I
No,
think that
second.
he's gonna get a bit of a challenge with this one.
Yeah, maybe.
I'd really.
He
do.
also might feel him out a little bit more in the first and then try to knock him out in the second. I don't know.
I'd worry that he's maybe underestimating him a little bit, but we'll see.
Have you seen him like talking about the fight? Does it sound? Why do you think he's underestimating? Or do you think he'll underestimate?
I just
him in the
worry
moment?
whenever a guy's been unbeaten for so long, it's like every fight longer, like every one he tacks on, I get a little more worried about it. When's the end coming?
Yeah,
You know?
fair enough. So those are the two main events and co-main event. Then there's Robbie Lawler and Ben Askren.
Yeah.
And Joe's been like hyping Ben Askren.
And it's like wrestle
chance he
God
gets.
versus fucking a monster striker who's gonna
Yeah.
come at you and keep coming at you.
Yeah. So I kind of feel like Ben Askren is going to take it by
Yeah.
submission
I think so too.
in the late first round or maybe mid second round.
Do you think maybe
by
if this
submission.
fight happened 2 years ago with the Lawler that beat the fucking face off Rory McDonald, do you think that'd be the same result then?
I don't know. Rory definitely put a lot of miles on Lawler. They both put
Yeah.
a lot of miles on each other
Absolutely.
in that fight. And I mean, he's known for that kind of fight. Robbie Lawler is the brawler,
Yeah.
Lawler the brawler. And
Well,
he's
yeah, man, his lip was hanging off too after
Oh.
that fight. That thing was horrific.
tons of fights. I feel like he's just been like his fights with he fought GSP, right? And that
Did he
I
fight
feel like he
GSP?
got mangled in that fight. And Condit, I think it was I think he beat Condit, but he got super
He's been around for a hot minute too, right? Lawler,
Yeah.
like he's been around since forever.
trying to see what his trying to look at his record here. 2017. It looks like he hasn't fought for like a year and a half or so. He
Yeah.
beat Donald Cerrone by decision. That
In his-
went
the
went
last
the
one?
distance. Yeah, that was in like July 29th,
Right.
2017.
I remember that one. Yeah.
And before that, it was like 2016 that he fought.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was Condit. He beat Condit by decision. Woodley knocked him out.
Yeah.
He lost to Woodley, and then 2015 was the Roy McDonald fight.
Shit, man. time
Can't
is
believe
flying.
it was that long ago.
Yeah.
2015.
Such a
and-
classic UFC.
Yeah, he
If
won.
anyone wants to go back
Yeah.
and watch
Oh.
old UFCs.
That was one of the most epic fights. Like if I was going to pick my top 10 fights of all time,
Yeah.
that's probably, I think that's probably up there.
And then you had Connor versus Mendez that same card
Yeah.
headlining it. That shit was great.
Yeah.
Fuck.
That was a good one for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So anyways, I think probably just by the way, I haven't watched Ben Askren much. Like I haven't watched any full fights. I've seen a little bit of like clips on YouTube.
Yeah.
But just the way Joe talks about him, that he's the truth for like jiu-jitsu and super, super smart, doesn't get hit, right? He's like super good at avoiding getting hit.
Yeah.
So if he can avoid getting hit and get it to the ground, I think he puts away,
He'll be a fun guy to watch. He does a lot of trash talking too, which is cool.
yeah.
I like that. So Tisha Torres. Oh yeah. So who are we picking there?
Tisha Torres and Wiley Zhang.
So for
I don't
you're
really
picking
know.
Ben though? You think Ben?
I think Ben, yeah,
I'm
ultimately.
going to take Robbie on that one just because I really
Okay.
want him to have it. But
Okay.
So Tisha Torres versus Wiley Zhang.
Yeah.
I
mean, I don't know Wiley Zhang. I know Tisha Torres, but Wiley Zhang is 18-1-0. So that's a pretty strong record.
got Wiley.
But I don't know who has she been fighting. Like, because Tisha Torres is a much bigger name.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wiley Zhang, is this one of her first fights in the UFC, or where does she come
I'm
from?
not sure. I don't know a whole lot about her.
History.
You don't
Well,
see that many Asian fighters, surprisingly enough. Like you'd think there would be a lot, considering
like
martial arts came
Thailand
from
and,
Asia.
Japan and
Yeah.
Let me see here. I'm looking at her record. So she has fought in the UFC. It looks like she was on a fight night.
Mhm.
She won her last 2 fights at least in the UFC. I think maybe this is her 3rd fight in the UFC.
Doesn't Tisha have kind of a salty record?
Tisha, I don't remember what her last fight is. Looks like she lost to Joanna Jacek in round 3.
Yeah.
By
She got
decision,
pieced up.
and then lost by decision to Jessica Andrade as well.
Those are both killers, though. That seems like an unfair
And
assessment.
didn't get knocked out.
Yeah.
Just
Oh, that's
lost
right.
decision.
We were talking about Joanna post being a champion. This is Joanna after losing the belt that
Yeah.
she fought.
She beat Michelle Watterson, the karate hottie.
Oh, that's
One of my
notable
favorite
for sure.
by decision.
Yeah.
Won a submission against Juliana Lima.
Hmm.
And won a decision against Beck Rawlings. In this 2017.
Which is recognizable.
Looks like she has a record back to 2014.
Hmm.
Lost to Rose Namajunas.
Yeah.
Doug Rose!
Doug Rose.
Doug Rose!
Doug Rose is fighting Andrade sometime soon.
Yeah, 236.
I'd worry about that for her a little bit, but
You worry
We'll
for... Man, she might be my favorite woman.
Rose?
Rose,
she's
yeah.
pretty slick. Yeah.
I love her.
Yeah.
She's great.
Yeah.
I
God, what she did to Joanna was just shocking because Joanna was so on top for so long.
do not like Joanna.
You didn't like her?
No, I've never liked her. She just seems like a cunt, and
Yeah.
she's cocky. I don't like her. I don't like the way she moves. She's like really like sketchy, kind of like fast, sketchy movements, and I'm like, looks like she. I don't know. I really don't like Joanna.
Just
And
not your...
that name, God Christ, am I supposed to
Oh,
spell
fuck.
that? I can't write that down when I'm making my UFC notes.
Have a little respect and shorten it.
Yeah, Joanna J.
Yeah. Fucking
Um,
name. Doesn't even look like what it says.
I kid, but yeah, she's never been. I don't know. I just don't like her. I don't have to like everyone.
Well, she's a bit of a troll.
Should we bet? I would like to, because Joe's been advertising this this gambling site where you can go and bet on the
DraftKings?
UFC. Is it DraftKings? I don't think it is.
No,
It's some-
my bookie.
Yeah, my
That's
bookie.
right.
I was thinking about going on there because I do feel like I'm pretty correct in these picks, but
Do you have to get all 5 to like get a jackpot or whatever for
no,
that?
you can bet. You can make one bet on just like, I bet it's going to end in the first round. I bet you John Jones knocks him out in the first round.
Yeah.
And you can make, and the more specific you make the bet, the like greater the odds go up. So the bigger the payouts are, but the less chance you have. You can make the easier bet is just John Jones to win.
Oh,
right?
okay. And so
John
you'd
Jones to
only
win, you
win by a
probably
small margin or whatever.
Yeah, you bet $100, you win $10 back.
Oh, yeah.
if you just pick John Jones to win. But if you pick John Jones to win specifically by knockout and specifically in the second round,
Yeah.
now all of a sudden you turn your $100 into $1,000.
Can you even go into minutes too?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
With the way Joe's talking, I haven't actually been on the website, but the way Joe talks about it, he's like, you can pick a ton of different options for what you want to bet on and gamble on.
That's cool.
Yeah. And, with Sports Select, it's always like you get 5 hockey games and they have to all win in order for it to pay out.
That's what made
Or
me
if you
think
get
that,
like 4
yeah.
out of 5, then you get a tiny payout.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get all 5, then you get like $100.
Yeah. I never fucked with that very much.
I like the Oilers,
Mm-hmm.
but I've never really cared about. I have a tough time getting into like NFL. I don't have a home team to cheer for. I just never really never felt connected to any. I didn't play football growing up.
Yeah.
So it's like I never really felt like watching the NFL was really exciting.
Football for me has always been like so boring. I don't know. It's not even that it's not dynamic. It's totally dynamic, but it's just, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I don't get it.
Yeah, we didn't play it growing up.
I just don't like it.
Yeah, I've never really been into football either.
Yeah.
Like if it's like the Rough Riders or the Eskimos, I
Mhm.
could, and especially if it's the Grey Cup and one of those teams are in it, I'm like, okay, that'll be fun because I can cheer for those. Those are my home teams. My parents cared
Yeah.
about those teams. There's some culture around cheering for those teams.
Mhm.
Whereas like if I just pick a random NFL team, the way it seems like tons of my friends are just like, I like the Seahawks. I'm like, okay, well, why? Like, we don't know.
I like their colors.
Yeah. They're
That's
in
why I
Seattle.
liked teams when I was a kid, man.
Yeah, totally.
I liked Sharks because their colors.
Oh yeah, purple and green.
Well, no, they have like a turquoise green and black.
Mm,
Or they did,
I
anyway.
don't know. Purple.
The cool kids had like a
Back.
Bulls pullover, but I had a Sharks pullover. I was a nerdy kid. What can I say?
Yeah, no,
I
I
made
like
the
the
wrong
Kings because
choices
they were
a
like
lot.
black and silver. I was like,
Yeah.
And then Wayne Gretzky went there, and I was like, Kings for sure.
For sure. Yeah. Same with like the Raiders. Those were the other popular one.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, teach stories, and then you've also got Cody Garbrandt and Pedro Munoz.
And this is the return of Cody after getting fucking trolley whopped twice. By
Yeah.
What's his name? TJ.
DJ.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So had his little his ego chopped down real good.
you need that. Those are his
He
only
did
2
need that.
losses.
He did need that
Yeah,
because he's a good fighter.
he is a good fighter, great boxer.
Yeah.
The way he beat DJ Dominic DC.
Yeah, he fucked Dominic Cruz up
Yeah.
too. That was a good fight.
Yeah, the way he beat Dominic Cruz, it was shocking. I did not see that coming.
He made Dominic look like an amateur.
Yeah,
He really did. Like
Well-
it was crazy.
and he was doing his little like fancy footwork. He's a good boxer for
Mhm.
sure. I did not see that coming. I thought because the way Dominic's movement, but he just was he trading with TJ? Who was he trading with that was able to like kind of mimic Dominic's style?
I think TJ and Dominic were very similar in style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He has that weird like looping, like almost like it's not a style, like
Yeah,
it's an
he like
accidental
bends at the
thing.
waist, and then he like leans out, and then he leans over here, and then all of a sudden he's like walk. Yeah.
Yeah.
That fight, him and TJ, when Dominic beat TJ just barely.
Yeah.
That's in my top 5 favorite fights of all time.
It's a great one. Yeah,
But yeah, Cody, I'll take Cody in that fight.
me too. Mostly though, because just I don't really know Munoz
Yeah, me
very
neither.
much.
But Cody by knockout.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so too. I want to see him build it back up.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at here. So Munoz, if you wouldn't have guessed it, he's Brazilian.
Yeah.
So I assume that means his nickname's the Young Punisher.
It might be Hunos or
M? No.
Pedro
J's are-
Hunos.
It's Pedro Munhoz. So the H's are like what, J sounds? Munjos,
Oh yeah, you're probably right.
right?
Moonjo. It's probably just Moonjo. I feel like there's no pronunciation on that Z.
Yeah. Pedro
The
Munjo.
Pedro, I imagine it's
Muno.
still Pedro,
Muno.
right? Pedro's Pedro in
Maybe
every
it's
language.
Munyo. I don't know. But I assume he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt.
Well, I know there's one named Hoyler Gracie, but it's spelled
Hoyler.
like Royler, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
R's are H's.
And then Royce Gracie is spelled Hoyce Gracie.
Yeah.
or said
Royce
Hoyce.
Gracie is spelled Royce Gracie.
Yeah, it's fucking
Yeah,
confusing.
R's are H's.
They just have everything backwards. That's all.
So it could be Ped Ho. Pedho.
God damn, if that's how they pronounce it, I'm gonna get upset.
Yeah, I'll really cheer against
You
him.
guys are
if
just
it's
being
Pedho.
contrarian now.
Yeah. Fuck that guy. The Young Punisher. I don't know. I definitely take. It's not showing me the odds on these. I'm curious what the Vegas odds are.
I'd like to bet on a few underdogs that have a chance. I feel like that's how you can really get paid.
Yeah.
Betting on John Jones is a pretty
Yeah,
easy
pretty
bet.
safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone that I picked in that is probably all the
Oh, you're probably right. Let's be
overdogs. What do you?
Yeah. What do you call that?
I don't know. The favorites.
Favorites. That's right. That's all it is. They don't call it anything else. I don't think.
Underdog and overdog.
Overdog sounds better though.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with
You
overdog.
picture a dog humped over another dog just
Yeah,
giving
humping
it. That's hilarious.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, dude. Well, we're up to an hour here, so
Oh shit.
let's wrap it up. And I guess we'll try the similar thing for next week.
It was
God
fun.
damn, there's a 5-hour episode of Alex Jones coming up this week. Have you listened to that one
I
yet?
haven't. I just got through
It's 5
Dr.
hours.
Phil, and there's one more that I missed between Dr. Phil and the one before. It was-
I'm just starting Dr. Phil.
5 hours means they
and
must have got drunk.
I have 8 hours. So yeah, I mean, I know I have 8 hours of Rogan to go. But it'll be interesting. Maybe one of us will talk about Alex Jones. Who knows?
I feel like we're gonna have to.
Yeah.
How are we gonna ignore that one?
Yeah, we can't ignore that one.
And then
But-
one's Dr. Phil this week. Which is,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's pretty cool.
that's another big name.
But let us know, listeners, if you like this new format, where we get a little bit more in depth on just a couple episodes, or do you like having the lighter recap of all the episodes of the week? I don't know.
Yeah.
You let us know what you like. For me, this felt pretty comfortable doing
It
it.
felt
this way.
fun. Felt
So,
different.
something
It was
new.
Cool.
Season 2 is upon us, but we're going to keep the episode numbers. So season 2, episode 24.
Yeah.
That's what we did. Thanks so much for listening. Love you guys. And we'll be back next week.
Have a good week.
Joe Rogan's unique perspective is teaching us all how to best live, and we will attempt to recap all of his weekly podcasts. Now show your support and download the Rogan Report. The Rogan